This is the final session of the membership course that we will spend individually in homes. There is one other session that we will hopefully come back together for. In this session, though, we are going to look at the contribution that each of us makes to church life. The question that we're asked at membership: do you promise to give a fitting proportion of your time, talents and money for the church's work in the world? That recognition that all of us make a contribution to church life, and all of us should be expected to, in the way that in a family all of us make a contribution to family life, in church life all of us make a contribution too. I hope you've taken some time to read together 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 12 to 24. If you haven't, then switch the video off, have a read at it, and then come back to this point in the video. It's there in that passage that Paul is making the point that all of us have a contribution to make to the church family, as he describes the church family as being like a body that is made up of many parts. In the church that Paul was writing to, some imagined that they were important and others were not. He uses the example of a body to describe how every part is needed. So the ear can't do what the eye can do, and the eye can't do what the nose can do, nor what the hand can do. Every part of the body has a contribution to make to the whole body. And Paul says the church is like that. Every part of the church is needed. Every part or member of the church brings a contribution that is needed, even though it may be hidden at times. Yet it's there. All of us have something to bring, and all of us have something to offer. The church, he says, is made up of many parts, and each of us has something unique to bring to the mix. You have something unique to bring to the mix. So do those around you. All of us in church are so different. We come from different backgrounds. We think in different ways. We look different. We are of different ages. There are so many things that might set us apart, that might force us to say, well, actually, we don't belong together, but we do. Each of us has something unique to bring, and without us, the church will not be all that it can be. Paul says that means that the church will be enriched by what we bring. The church will be enriched by what you bring. And therefore I need to value what you and others bring, and you need to value what I and others bring. We need to value the contribution of others, and we also need to value the contribution that we make. We need to recognise that we have got something to bring, and that we enrich the church by what we bring. And therefore in membership we do ask that question of people. We ask that they might make a contribution to church life and to family life as we share together. That recognition that all of us can do that. The question that comes out of that, though, and some of what we'll look at this evening, is what the contribution is that we might bring, and how much we are actually able to contribute at the moment in terms of our time and talents. How much of my time and talents might I use at the moment for the church's work in the world? Now please notice that that's not just for the church's work in Loanhead, and it's actually not even just about what we might call church work. It's about the church's work in the world, about taking out the message of the good news, about being good neighbours, and contributing within our community. It's not only about church work, but about church's work in the world. Now, I believe in some ways that pattern will change for us at different points in our lives. There will be times when we've got major family commitments, and actually that precludes us from doing a whole lot in church life. I remember someone in my previous church coming to me and apologising for not being involved because she was looking after her elderly mother. My response to her was to say that she was doing the work of God in her family. And there are times where that is exactly where God is calling us to serve, and we need to recognise that it is no less about the church's work in the world, to be engaged in working in our family and providing support for them than it might be to do something that's got a specific church tag. And yet how we contribute in different ways and what we bring is important for us to work through. What at the moment for you is a fitting proportion of your time and talents? What are the talents that you have? What is there that you bring that others might not be able to do, but you can do well? And so as you discuss and share together, those are some of the things that you will explore this evening. What are the talents that God has given you that you might be able to use to benefit all of us, so that we might grow together? A fitting proportion of time and talents. It is the third one of those that I didn't say that is the problem: money. That's often the one that folk begin to balk at and wonder, well, what's this about? What is a fitting proportion of my money? If you had been around church life 150 years ago, actually we wouldn't be asking this question. We'd actually only be asking whether you were ready to pay your pew rent. Because at that time the church, like everywhere else, simply asked you to pay a specific contribution. It was called a pew rent. You paid for your pew, and you actually put a card at the end of your pew to say that you had paid your pew rent. I can't work out from this card exactly how it was worked out, but that's what it was. You paid for your pew, you paid for it for a year, your card sat at the end of the pew, and you might sometimes have seen the little holders that were at the end of the pews. You knew not to sit there. That was literally somebody else's pew. They had paid for it. You had to find a pew that had a card at the end saying "Visitor Welcome." Those were the only pews that you could sit in. In many ways, I'm sure that was easier for people. You worked out exactly what you had to contribute. But actually, it wasn't biblical. What we offer now is what's called free will offering. And so the envelopes that go in the plate are free will offering envelopes. And whether you pay by that, or whether you contribute in that way, or whether you contribute by standing order, it is about our free will offering, what we choose to give. And therefore we ask people to give a fitting proportion of their money as well as their time and their talents. A fitting proportion. What do we mean by that? Well, it means that we have to work it out for ourselves. It's not as simple as going to the shop and picking up a can and knowing exactly what we will pay for it. We're meant to work it out for ourselves because our income and our ability to contribute will differ from person to person. There's a sense that what lies behind this, though, is that all that I have and all that you have comes from God. And out of what He has given me, I have to work out what part of that is to be used, that I have to set aside for the church's work in the world. I would encourage you to do that, to work that out and literally to set it aside. I remember my gran used to have lots of envelopes in a drawer, and every time she got her pension she would put money into each of the envelopes. I don't know how you manage your money, but I would encourage you to set aside part of your income for the church's work in the world. A fitting proportion of that. It's not altogether easy to work out what that fitting proportion might be. Those in Judaism would set aside a tithe of their income. 10% of their income was what was important to give. If you were following Muslim law, then 2.5% of your savings and wealth each year you would give towards the poor. It would go and that would then be distributed. There's about £3,000 that is not taxed, if you like, but the rest of it would go. And you see in many faiths, therefore, that there is something about giving a fitting proportion. We would say we don't want to set that, although many of us, and I include myself and my family, would say actually we're going to tithe, going to give 10% of our income to the church's work in the world. I don't want to hold anybody by that. I simply say there's a way of working out what is it for you that is going to be a fitting proportion. You need to take the time to think that through, and that, I believe, is important. One thing I would say, though, that is, if you pay tax, please gift aid it. We get money back from the government for anything that you gift aid and give. It's money that we get for nothing. And actually, whatever you choose to give, please do gift aid it in a very practical way so that we can benefit from that. Giving then of your time, your talents and your money. Something very practical as we think this through this week. But actually it is about the commitment that we have made in terms of faith and a commitment we make to the church family, that we will play our part in what is going on.